So how can a teacher who's feeling, let's say, resource dry, reach out to your department? And what are some ways that you and your team can maybe take some of the weight off of a teacher's shoulder when it comes to like the research, the planning, the
Yeah,
lessons?
well, that's in my list of library media services. If you want to fill out one of those forms for requesting materials or working with me to take some of the load off you and give you some services like coming into your classroom with artifacts, bringing a book to life with a book talk, or doing a themed lesson with you or something like that, or thinking outside the box in any form or fashion, you can find it right there. And if not, I'm always a simple email away.
Welcome back to Beach Park District 3's Beyond the Bell, the podcast where we connect with the incredible people and share their stories that make our culture unique. Today, we're diving into the heart of our schools, the place where curiosity meets information and where technology meets tradition. Our guest is the architect. That's right, the architect of our district's hubs of discovery. He leads the charge in ensuring our students aren't just readers, but digital citizens, and that our teachers have the media resources that they need to bring our lessons to life. He's a champion for literacy and a guide through ever-changing landscape of educational technology. I've been anxiously awaiting this opportunity to host him as our guest on the show because we do go way back. Please welcome our coordinator of library and media services, Mr. Charles Ongena, or as I and many of us also know him, Charlie. What is up, Mr. Ongena?
Hey, thanks for having me.
For sure. Thank you so much for making the time. I always like to show my gratitude at the beginning of the show to just say, I know your time is valuable. People are going to really dig just us hanging out and getting to know you a little bit. You've got quite the history in our district, so I can't wait to get into that. And to just start off, I know that you didn't just wake up one day as a coordinator in our district. So would you do us a solid and tell us a little bit about your journey in education? Where did you start? What pushed you towards education? And then this side of media and technology.
All right, I will begin this adventure for you. I'm going to start off with this story at the end of high school. So, as often as we go through life, we don't really know what we want to do. And I can tell you, I had no real idea of what I wanted to do with the rest of my life towards the end of high school. What I did get was an opportunity to work at the Forest Preserve. So it was the Cook County Forest Preserve. This came up through a volunteering program that we had to do our senior year. So I found a nature center that had an availability for high school volunteers. Well, that ended up turning into my first serious job through high school and all the way through college. And it was definitely, I'd say, life altering with the people that I worked with, just the real world application of learning like coming to light to me. And there's some pivotal moments that I remember from this experience, and one of which really kind of like steered me into the thought of education. Now, shout out to my mom. She was a teacher for like more than 40 years. So I was not
Wow.
foreign to the concept. She never put pressure on me to go into that though. And, I was just always around that creative energy. She always provided me with resources to learn about things that I wanted to know about. Took me to the library quite frequently. So I have very positive memories of a library from a young age. But it's at this job, I was a naturalist aide. So I worked underneath naturalists. And that could have been the direction that I moved in life, very close to that. But this one guy in particular, so I'd be the guy, we'd have a group of kids come in. And this is after my other stuff that's good character building in life. I cleaned the public restrooms. You know what I mean? I think that's so valuable to have had that experience. And I think everybody needs to do a little bit of everything that they can. So after cleaning the restrooms at 6 a.m, and then cutting up ground roadkill to feed the animals that we took care of that can't take care of themselves, and mopping the floor. There's an art to that stuff that people don't realize. Cleaning windows so that you don't have streaks, things like that. Then I got to really appreciate my opportunities out in the field working with groups of kids. So kids would come from schools or clubs or whatever, and they do like a naturalist program where you walk out in nature and you have some form of organization where they might have like a passport or adventure guide. And then being the aide, of course, I got to wear the waders and like walk in muck and pond stuff. And I got the dip net, and I'm scooping stuff out of there and digging through looking for the dragonfly nymphs and the duckweed and getting to actually get my hands dirty and, feet in the grass type of thing. And then the naturalist is the one who kind of does a lot of the explaining and all of that stuff. Well, then we come back to the nature center at the conclusion of these programs, and the kids have to like show their guides that they used, and the naturalist asks them questions, make sure that they have some comprehension of what we just did, make sure they had correct identifications, and then you get this really cool official stamp as kind of the grand finale. So we had a group that was a little squirrely, and he just this guy was just awesome. And this is what I kind of inspired me to be an educator. Super well educated, very smart guy, doctorate, studied in like an English university and all this stuff. He did not take himself too seriously. And when he saw this group of kids were squirrely, probably not going to really pay attention to what he was doing behind his naturalist desk, because you got this official desk area. He opens up the thing, walks out into the middle of the foyer of a nature center. He plops down on the ground, crisscross applesauce, and he makes a sign for the kids to follow his lead. So this super squirrely group of kids are like, that's unexpected to see this older gentleman walking out here and plopping down on the floor, crisscross applesauce. So they plop down, still some little talking's going on. So the first thing he did was roll his stamp in the ink and pop it right on his forehead. He stamped himself in the forehead. And I'll tell you what, for the rest of that time where he talked to the kids, they were eating out of the palm of his hands. And I'm telling you that when I saw that, it was like light coming out of the clouds. I was like, "Wow." Like, I wanna be in that type of a life where I can, like, do things like that. That's cool. I like that. So that's like a brand of life. And I was able to, in college, have some people kinda push me towards teaching, be like, I got a feeling." I had one art professor was like, "I just got a feeling about this. You're a good fit with elementary students. I can tell." And sure enough, I was able to I kind of always go back to that memory of watching him pivot and just do something goofy. And it just captivated his audience. It was just awesome. That's unscripted stuff you can't plan for. And I mean, that's kind of been the magic sauce to teaching is being able to pivot. Don't take yourself too seriously. Follow your instincts and have fun. I mean, that
Oh,
kind of sums it up right there. That wraps it up with a bow tie. So if you can do something that you enjoy, and it was clear he always enjoyed what he was doing, and you can be able to pivot, you can have that intuitive nature. That's the art of teaching. And if you struggle at that to begin with, you can work on it. Those are skills we can all work with. But if you get that charge amidst all the chaos of everyday strife and struggle, if you get those little win moments like that, hey, teaching is where it's at for you. You kind of know when you know. And then that applies to administration as well. Teaching of adults and facilitating and developing programs with so much more complexity in mind. But it all comes down to those simple lessons that I just kind of went over.
it's fantastic. It's way deeper than I thought we were gonna get. It's fantastic. So thank you, man. That's awesome. So how do you follow that up? So what have you done in the district? What roles did you got right into teaching then, I'm gonna assume?
Let me break this down for you. So here I was, with just lucky enough to have the right support people in my life and people giving me good advice and modeling things like that. I did get into the education program at college. I had started off in art. I thought psychology would just, as much as I think that could have been a path that just didn't fit at that moment, interested in the sciences, interested in history, but then education, like Yeah, okay, this is starting to make sense to me. So I left college. My better half that you know pretty well, we went to college 30 miles apart. We were high school sweethearts, so we were still part of each other's lives since those early moments. So she had a year to go. So I did my thing for a year. And that's another thing. You get this college degree, and then you have to actually jump off some sort of a cliff and use it. And I went into construction for a little bit and almost died of like tar fumes and non-OSHA compliant dangling off of the sides of buildings, staining stuff, getting cash under the table type of things, applying for grain out elevators. And basically my in-laws kind of helped me on this one. We went out for a visit and they're like, listen, you either use that degree or you come live in our house with us, one or the other. So it was at that point that I was like, okay, it's time. So then as soon as Lisa graduated, then it was like, let's get my resume out there and do something. So just happened to be lucky enough to have an opportunity at Beach Park. Never heard of it, didn't know where it was, but it had the word beach in it, so it had my interest. So drive out here. This is 2002. So drive out here in my 1986 AMC Eagle with Lisa. It's like early August, so we pull up. So KM was where the district office was. So we get in there, and it was Jackie Grana at the time as the secretary, and she's like, "Hey, I see you're here for your appointment." She's like, "I watched you drive up. Is there someone in your car? It's like 110 degrees out." I'm like, "Yeah, that's my friend." She's like, "Bring her inside. Get her out of that car." So I went out and got Lisa and brought her in. Well, the superintendent at that time who did my interview for art teacher in this random place I'd never heard of was her principal in middle school from a different city. Oh, yeah. So right off the bat, my interview became a double where he's like, "Listen, when you're done with your schooling, come on back. We'll hire you." So we basically knocked two birds out with one stone with that one interview. Well, I'll tell you something else. My favorite place in Beach Park has never changed. Following this interview, we drove straight to the lake because I was like, Beach Park, I want to see it. What a beautiful natural resource Illinois State Beach Park is. Oh my gosh. And right when you pull in, you can find that little space probably in the employee area. Still my favorite. If you park at that one higher space, you just get this $1 million view. Anytime throughout the decades now that I've worked in this area, that's where I'll go to recharge if I have an opportunity after work. You're going to see some deer if you drive out there too, most likely. It's just gorgeous. So we're
It is.
we're lucky to live so close to something.
Yeah, it's an absolute gem. You're not wrong about that. And,
Anyway, that was a very long beginning to the fact that I started as an art teacher at Kenneth Murphy. Great beginnings too, because that was the year it transitioned from a middle school to an elementary school. Well, we didn't have any furniture or any supplies come in for at least 2 weeks. And the folks with me at those times can verify, how memory is. It might get a little shady, but I swear it was 2 weeks or longer that we literally were just using printer paper, all of us. That's all we had was printer paper, and I was having kids sitting on the floor. I took them outside to collect like plants, and we ground them up and mixed them with water to make our own homemade watercolors. Like we just got creative. And then from that point forward, whatever resources you were given, you appreciated because we spent that time, my first, month teaching or whatever, without actual resources, even like seats in some cases. So I mean, it was really good way to jump in there, and build some character as a teacher. Then over the next 8 years or so, I'm always interested in looking for new frontiers where we can utilize tools to make learning more engaging, something that takes it to the next level. Let's go beyond what we're capable of doing with whatever's available to us. So at that period of time, obviously technology, right? So, I'm starting to utilize the one computer that we had per room, if you were lucky. Plus, we had a computer lab. So I started doing that in art class, and then I got permission. The reason I love this district, if you have like a desire to go further, chances are there's a space to do it here. So I asked to make a technology class basically, and I split my art time half at the end from art and technology. So I was able to bring that in and kind of pioneer that program in an elementary setting, and I loved it. Just so happened that I was taking my getting my degree in instructional technology for my master's at that point of time, and the technology director was in her retirement phase. So I was teacher tech, as I know you were during those periods of time. And I just kind of naturally came upon that opportunity. Wasn't planning on it, but I switched to technology. Then spent 11 years here in technology and just loving the concept of going beyond what was possible before. Redefinition. Let's not just use this as an equivalent of paper and pencil. What are you really doing with this? It's a tool, you know. I don't care what tool you're using, but as long as you keep pushing your boundaries and sparking curiosity. Some things don't change. The tools around you do, but some key concepts don't. So, right, you got to keep that ember alive in students. You got to keep that ember alive in staff and administration. So, that's one of the keys to success in this business. Dr. Wilcox devoted a year to joy. I mean, core memories, you know, things like that. That's the key to life on both ends. You know, that's the key personal life, that's the key professional life. And you got to have that balance where you're cognizant of that ember and spark on both ends. And then, you know, and I've learned so much from listening to all the on this program. And so I appreciate this service you do for us because some of these things stick with me. And it wouldn't have happened because you just don't have the time to sit and get into depth and conversation like this on a regular basis with so many
Yeah.
people. But you feel it when there's like this urge, there's this pull that you know that it's time for you to move on to something else. You know that you need to change in some form or fashion, and it's like if you're not feeling that ember or that spark on a regular basis anymore, it's time to just shift your perspective. There's always some other place in this business where you can rekindle that spark. And if you can't, that's where some people go into the corporate world or something like that. There's nothing wrong with that. You have to be self-aware. You know, life is this little minuscule sand grain in a ginormous beach. You know, you got to make the most of this sand grain. So if you're feeling that burnout, you're feeling that fatigue, you can't revitalize yourself. You've tried a couple things. Change the direction. Find it again. You know, have that joy. And that's personal side as well. You can't just be at work all day long and still work all night long. You can't. It's not healthy. You have to have self-care built into this equation. So anyway, I'm on my third act, right? In my professional life. So I did, and I shout out to my better half that I've already talked about because she had to put the buckle on and hold on tight because I'm like, I'm sorry, I need to switch gears again. And I felt it and I followed my instincts on this one. I had to step back from administration for a couple years, go back to school. You've talked about that with other people as well. The importance of that is so important. Just do it. There's no right time. Listen to, you know, our great Tracy Griffiths there. Her son said the words of wisdom. There is no good time. Just
Yeah.
do it. When you need to do it, you got to just do it. You know, rip that
Totally
band-aid
agree.
off. Keep going. You'll figure it out. You will. So same thing. Again, going back to school. And I know your better half must understand that because you, sir, have a lot of those papers up behind you.
Yeah.
So just you do what you got to do. And I happen to really enjoy going to school, you know, but it does take a toll on the family portion too. So you have to balance all that out. So yeah, here I am in my third act, really in my professional career, but I love it because I'm chasing those frontiers where you can do good things for the future generation. It's rewarding, and gosh, do I love what I'm doing right now. Coordinator in a small enough department where I've got a rotating schedule. For those of you who don't know, where I am able to teach an entire class to every single elementary student in this district 6 times in the year. So I've handcrafted a series of programs, and I'm guessing that might come up in our little interview shortly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a ton to unpack there. I gotta be honest with you. I usually don't take notes when I'm with a guest just because I wanna, like, keep up, and we've had conversations, but you have to introduce your wife to the crowd. It would be a disservice at this point.
Agreed. Yeah.
Give her
You
a
know what
shout out.
so, yeah, Lisa Ongena, possibly one of the best reading specialists in the region, maybe further. I'm a little biased, not
Yes,
gonna
she's fantastic.
so,
Just in
no,
case.
I think we've both grown up here and, we get to put our kind of thumbprint on what we do and follow what we're passionate about. So both of us have been lucky to find that rich soil here in Beach Park.
Yeah. You guys are both fantastic. I can't wait to push on her to come and spend some time with me. So hopefully she sees this and she's gonna say, "Oh man, what'd you get me into?" But
Yep. Oh,
she
yeah.
is absolutely amazing, and she is certainly, I mean, she is a leader as far as reading specialists in our
She
district go.
is.
There's no
Yep.
question, man. And we got some
She's a literacy leader. Yep.
solid reading specialists in our district. It's just so great to have her as well. You talked about a little bit about what you do as far as explaining the coordinator of the library and media services, but so people see the books, but what does the media service side of that entail?
All right, let me take a deep breath. I'm going to try to do a library 101 as quickly as I can. So
All
I
right.
think it's important to step back and visualize a library. I like to picture it like an old school building with columns, right? So this is my favorite visualization. So when it comes to managing libraries, you got to start outside the day-to-day operations. What makes that possible? Well, there's a lot. It's complex web, just like everything else, right? So at the very base, you got the foundational documents and policies, and they transcend from a federal to a state to a local level. So things you might not think about all the time. Let's talk about ADA. Well, Americans with Disabilities Act plays a part in libraries just like it would a school. There are recommendations for how high books should be. How many inches should the aisles between the stacks be? Things of that nature, even to the far of like visual patterns not being disorienting. So there's a lot to take into account just as you're constructing or reorganizing the physicalities of a library. Okay, then you go to state levels where you have, anti-book banning laws. It's a public act right now that was very that you have to take into account, and you have to reference these things as well in your collection development policies so that you do get funding. So, and then you have to be aware and knowledgeable of your local district board policies and how they affect things. If somebody wants to ask for reconsideration of a material, that's a direct link to somewhere in the board policy. You have an organized system that you can access easily when these situations come up. Then you move up and you have to understand what are the columns, right? So columns are the organizations and networks that support libraries. So again, transitioning from the biggest levels, in the country from ALA, then school specific with the AASL, then you move to a state level where you have your IL and your ILA and ISL. You have to be aware of these things. You have to be on their listserv so you're constantly getting updates. You have to be applying for the things that keep you as part of these systems. And then you move into the thought of funding. How do you fund these things? You have property taxes through your district, working with the different various departments, including curriculum. And I've done a lot of work with curriculum and then dual language. I'm doing a lot of work with this year as well to support them. And then you have grants where necessary after you utilize the stuff that comes in. The per capita grant, something that somebody has to be aware of, applying for that, making sure you meet the requirements of that so that you get the money that the state will give every school library to use towards the students in that context. Then you have access to resources outside the walls. So you have to be part of the loan groups on a more local level. So all that stuff is the web that gets you into the doors where you can see books on the shelves that you think, oh, this is what a library is, right? You can check out a book, I can bring it back. So that's what everybody knows a library is going to be able to do for them. But
Right.
libraries have evolved just like everything else. So I still want to give a shout out to every library staff member because listen, those books on the shelf that you see, we bring them in using a set of criteria. When they come in, they need to be cataloged and processed. When you catalog it, you remember those library card catalogs? You and
Yep.
I are old enough to have used
Yep.
those. Yeah. Well, the equivalent of that is now digital. It's called a MARC record. So that's the first thing we have to do is make sure that that information is filled out. It can be a little easier if you have a copy that you can copy from, basically copy and paste, right? Then you just put in your call tags and your barcode and your sublocation or your genre. But you got that done. Then you have to physically create the spine label for it. You got to create the barcode and put that in there, the property tag. We do a backup of the barcode in case it gets lost or damaged. Then it comes to protecting the books. So part of processing these books is if they're a hardcover, we make sure to use a heavy duty clear thing to stick on the spine and genre label. If it's soft cover, you got to do tape on the spine, tape on each of the edges of the thing. If it's got a dust jacket, that's the tricky one. You got to make your custom Mylar dust jacket cover, which is, takes some time. I find it cathartic, but it's a pain, right? So these are the little steps that have to go into every single book. We got like 13,000 books in every library, at minimum. So that's a lot of little work. Then you got shelving with circulation. If you ever want to give yourself a challenge, go talk to your friendly local library staff in a school library. Have them let you play with a one class worth of shelving, even if it's one book. See what it feels like to go up and down that often and squint to see the spine labels to make sure you're putting it in the correct. We'll even guide you to the right genre. We'll take you to the right section. You put it in exactly the right spot. It is more wearing than a person thinks. Then, so past all that stuff, then we've got programs and services. That's the stuff that not everybody understands.
Right.
Every library right now, it's about the programs and the services. Oh, do the public libraries have rich resources for us to go utilize? Anybody. And if you're a staff member, you get a library card at our local Zion Benton library, just like any other library. People don't turn people down anymore. There's a way. There's a way. Wherever you live and here where you work, you have access to these resources. So it's just a beautiful thing. The programs that I put into place, I'm really big into digital citizenship. And I see that as a parallel to social emotional learning. So I use the set of monster characters from commonsensemedia.org. Love this site, highly recommend it. So I've used them as my pillars for these 6 units. This is what I lead with. So every time I go in and put and do one of these programs, we talk about face to face social emotional learning, and then we talk about online. So it's divided into themes, and the name of each of my monsters kind of dictates the theme. So it goes from like arms with balance of media to heart and feet and guts and head. And each one of these units has its own like idea and theory behind it. Beautiful social emotional learning message. Perfect tie-in to being a digital citizen in this day and age. And with AI too, man, these are good conversations that we're having. So
Does
kids
every
are
kid get digital citizenship in our district?
yes, because after they get to the middle school, that's where they have Michelle Murray. Shout out to her. She's doing such a good job taking stepping into the role that our friend of 22 years just retired, Janae Aiken, and she's doing a great job carrying on the traditions and the resources that she has put into place, and then bringing them into her with her own little thumbprint on them and continuing forth with that. So yes, everybody receives that through the library. How great, right? What a
Yeah.
great place for that. Then I do a series of STEAM programs through these times as well. And I'm really proud of my STEAM program because I wrote it all from scratch myself. And how lucky am I that I get to not only write these programs, but I get to test them out and refine them. This is like a dream come true. It's like when I was walking in the nature center, it was my job to go walk the trails to make sure that they were safe for the visitors that day. I'm like, this is job. This is like a dream. I'm getting paid to do this, you know? So this is my jam. You know, I get to create stuff, use it, and it actually does good things for people. It's beautiful.
I love your
So
passion.
and then I get passionate about read alouds as well. So I had my own library for 2 years when I did step away from the district for a moment to learn some new skills. And I love this because it's reading with intention. So when I have a very organized system, scope and sequenced. Everything I do is color coded, by the way. I don't know if you know that about me.
I
But
don't.
if you were to peek into my email, my drive, anything, color coding is my jam. So I love a book like this that's already color coded based on intent, from creating a joyful classroom to the elements of fiction and nonfiction to English language arts, promoting writers. That's another thing I'm passionate about is promoting people being producers, not just consumers. So I actually have a year's worth of ramped up read alouds and totes available for my library staff if they don't already have their favorite things to do. I always got something. And I love
Let me
picture.
ask you.
Yeah.
Let me ask you while you're on it then. So, what would you say makes Beach Park Community and its libraries in our district unique compared to the other places you've been since you did get this unique opportunity to go learn more about the library for a couple of years? You came back and brought this stuff. So, what is it that's unique to us?
Well, you can usually hear the difference. And this is a challenge because some people have sensory issues, and I understand that. So, but I'll explain what I mean by you can hear the difference. There is a noise level that you might not be used to in a modern library environment because it's a hub of learning. I call it function before form. So when you look at the middle school library, for instance, and the awesome job that Mrs. Moray is doing, you can ask her to take you on a tour of the furniture. Every space is a designated area: STEM area, art area, community outreach area. How beautiful is that? That's another
Yeah.
thing. Every library has it. Go to your public library. They've got a community outreach area of some sort, writing workshop space, as well as an instructional space. And of course, an independent quiet reading space as well. So you have to have these functions built in and use a library as a machine, really. It has mechanisms within it. So if you build a library with intention, it can be very well utilized for so many things. And it
Yeah.
ends up becoming a safe space and a desirable space for anyone, students and staff, to be in. So that's the thing we're dealing with right now. The library is too popular, and we have to find ways to like keep it safe because of how many people want to be in the library, right?
It's a good
So it's
problem to have.
a great problem to have. Yep, those are good problems. So
I
yeah,
love
that
it.
hopefully that kind of explains maybe a difference that you might see, and that's not the case everywhere,
Yeah.
especially in school libraries.
Right.
I reached out to a district not that far away and said, "Hey, do you have some place for me to come visit that's a library space that's innovative?" The person was like, "I'm sorry, I don't. The district is not investing in us right now. We don't have the support right now from administration and staff necessarily. This isn't a good time to come look at our spaces." So it's not something that's a guarantee. We owe it to, being having that support and being allowed to create these spaces and bring
That's
these
great.
programs and services to them.
That's awesome to hear for us that, we're treading a path. It sounds like that we're treading a path that is providing in Beach Park District 3. I
Yep.
know you're at the helm of that ship.
It's a good start, I'll tell you what, and, I'm loving it, and I feel like I get the best job in the world for so many reasons. Another one is, think about this, I know every single student. I can't remember their names because that's my brain doesn't work that way, but I know their faces. So I know every single student in elementary school. If you feel kinda like a rock star. So this is about as close as I'll ever get, because I got no other skills that would make me a rock star, right?
I don't know about that, but man,
So
I
I'll
tell you
take
what,
it.
I get the elementary piece. Yeah, I mean, and for our audience, every elementary student because you are literally in every single library essentially every week. Is this correct?
More or less. The scheduling, how every building has their own unique set of scheduling. So what I did was create a year-long schedule that makes it completely equitable in the fact that I'm with every class 6 times a year guaranteed. So
Man,
that's
that
the
is awesome.
yeah.
That's commitment right
And
there.
then I built in the management time as well, which is absolutely necessary. But like I said, having a department this size compared to technology, which I spent 11 years with, I love this because I can still be in there with one foot in in the classroom, so to speak, and one foot outside, coming up with programs and services and
Yeah.
purchasing and making budget sheets. And gosh, I love spreadsheets too. So I'm a spreadsheet guy. So I mean, I get to do all the stuff that I love.
You mentioned sparking curiosity a little bit earlier. So, for a teacher that wants to do more with regard to sparking curiosity on a regular basis, what's your best advice when it comes to the library?
All right. So, first of all, make a request for us to work together. I actually just finished a website and I just had Diana Contreras publish it. If you want to make a request for staff library media services, that's me. And if you're at the middle school, it might be Michelle. But you would fill this form out and it's on my website. All you got to do is go to www. You look for the tab that says Parents and Students, alphabetical order, click the L for library, and I'm at the top of that page. Once again, that's www.bpd3.org. Staff and students, click library, make a request. I'd love to work with you.
That's awesome. All right. So, in the past decade, school libraries have changed, much like you've just said, more than perhaps any other room in the building. What would you say is the biggest shift you've seen in Beach Park District 3 regarding how students and staff utilize the library space?
I am shifting my perspective to make sure that I am praising the process over the product with anything I do. This is kind of how I see we keep the spark alive. We're just used to being a product driven society, right? We're graded on the final product. That's not where the magic comes from. When I told you the story at the beginning of this interview, I don't remember what those guides look like that the kids filled out. They probably don't either, but they might remember seeing a grown man plunk down on the ground, stamp themselves in the forehead, and then whatever he said after that about flora and fauna, they probably remember that portion, but
Yeah.
not the actual final product that you would turn in for a grade, so to speak. So
Right.
that's key in sparking curiosity and keeping that flame alive. And that's what I'm trying to encourage in the libraries, right? Also, dynamic and authentic learning. That's what I try to model in my programs that I put on. Let's have nonlinear things. We want you to get to this destination, but I want you to have some choice and voice in how you get there. You get to build that, and that's the learning adventure that I got to experience at the Forest Preserve with many things, and that I am getting to promote working from the library. And I love talking to people about this stuff. They got the zombie eyes because we get it from staff too. That's how it is. When you sit for too long. So there's ways to like use an AED of learning. We can like resuscitate people in praising process over product, dynamic and authentic learning. And the staff like is helping me get to the places where we recognize that and promote these things. Choice and voice, autonomous availabilities where people really get to take ownership in what they're doing. Joy and positivity. That's the last one I want to wrap it up with on a bow. Library, you shouldn't be, it's not a place where you're like forced to do things. You get to choose what you read about and find out about. I remember that from being a little kid. I was so like curious about things. And when somebody stopped me, then I would continue on and find another route to an answer. And I think that's what librarians can do. And don't forget, librarians should be looked at a little bit like MacGyvers. If you don't know what MacGyver
Yeah.
is a reference to, Google that. We're talking about 80s gold right there. And that is my man, MacGyver. That's kind of what I see librarians as. You could go to a librarian with any problem. And if they don't know the answer, they're going to help you figure out how to solve this problem. I'll tell you what, if you go to Michelle downstairs, she's got a giant toolbox. She's ready to fix things for you if you needed assistance with that. Anything. Life's problems, where you fit in the world, kind of one of my main missions. And I actually wrote that in the library's mission. You want a closer look at that? Check out my website. You can read it closely. But we help
Plug it
people.
again. Plug it again. Website.
www.bpd3.org. Parents and students tab, and it's alphabetical. So just look for that L, library, first link on the page.
I promise you we're going to link it to this podcast. It's going to be in the
Right on.
notes. It's
And of
awesome, man.
course, I'm only an email away.
Yeah.
CHONGENA at bpd3.
No, I think that kind of summed up just the creative space in the library. I think you hit the answer, right? Like that is the curiosity spot. So
Yep.
how about some inside information? Any new digital resources, databases, projects that teachers should be looking for this
Yeah,
year? That's come out?
I brought 3D printers in for the first time this year, and we're doing a slow roll because, like with any other new technology, it takes a while to kind of learn what you can do with it and things like that. But I built a system so that we can use it for incentives to start with. So we can encourage kids with both behavior and bringing books back on time, maybe being adventurous and choosing a genre outside of their comfort zone. But anyone, including staff members, can get a ticket from your friendly library staff. And there's actually a little QR code that'll take you to a spot on my website where you can fill out a request and choose from this menu that I've curated of things that we know we can print successfully. And then we can have conversations. I even created a unit of instruction that I started this year on the art behind 3D printing. Because a lot of times you'll have printers, people can choose from a menu, but they never get that concept of how does a person create those three-dimensional drawings. Well, now I teach that. So the kids are getting a chance to at least understand the art behind it. Not that we can handle printing everyone's custom things all the time, but there's a way to do that, and you can earn it with these tickets, this ticket system. So it's a really nice service that I've a little bit of a program and then a service that we have available for both staff and students. I'm going to push it a little bit harder next year because we're still in the learning process of what we can do and can't do and what works well, testing out filament types and things of that nature. But the kids are loving it. Every has one available. So the
I
kids
think that this
absolutely
is a
love it. Staff would love it too.
just a- yeah, I was gonna say like that is awesome. More time that goes by, the more you see 3D printed materials. And it's just like sky seems to be the limit. And I think that this piggybacks just your answer right there. At least it's linear in the sense that your blue sky vision for library. Like if you were to walk into a Beach Park District 3 library media center 5 years from now, what would be different and what would you like to see there?
So that's a standardized set of resources no matter what building you're at. Similar experience and programs that you receive, like I've talked about, similar services are offered. Janae Aiken did an awesome job making it a tradition to rent the planetarium, the portable planetarium from the Regional Office of Education. So continuing to do things like that. And I've got my eyes set on our own portable planetarium so that we can use it more than just once a year for a 2-week span that we have to rent. Things like that. So like bringing as many resources into these spaces as possible that we can utilize and sustain in a manner that just offers the most opportunity to both our students and staff. And I think staff is an important part of this balance as well. Libraries aren't just for our students. They're going to grow to become more of a resource for our staff members.
Let's talk about that for a second then. So, how can a teacher who's feeling, let's say, resource dry, reach out to your department? And what are some ways that you and your team can maybe take some of the weight off of a teacher's shoulder when it comes to like the research, the planning, the
Yeah,
lessons?
well, I that's in my list of library media services. It's a Google form right off the staff tab, and I'll bet you know the address to that website pretty well, and so does everyone else listening. bpd3.org. You gotta find that tab, and everyone has access to it. Community members, students, and staff. But of course, if you want to fill out one of those forms for requesting materials, or working with me to take some of the load off you and give you some services like coming into your classroom with artifacts, bringing a book to life with a book talk, or doing a themed lesson with you or something like that, or thinking outside the box in any form or fashion. You can find it right there. And if not, I'm always a simple email away.
Yeah, I think that's the cheat code. It's the
Yeah,
resource piece for teachers. I think about as a teacher, knowing the library's there is one thing, but knowing how I could utilize it as an educator in our district and what it could do for me to help support the learning that's going on in my classroom is vital to maybe the integration and bridging the gap between two separate spaces, but within the same building.
that's it. So yeah, I'm here. I'm approachable, and I feel bad because I don't know everybody like I used to. I just don't. I know the kids better than I do the staff now, and that's a transition shift from technology to library. I don't know all the staff members anymore like I did back in the day. But my goodness, do I like to talk about this stuff. So you can approach me in the hallway. You can email me. You can fill out a request now that I have that completed on my website. I think I've taken up way too much time in this interview.
Listen, the beauty of podcasting is that we get to have authentic conversations and you get to express yourself. And I think the biggest piece here, and you just said it, is you don't know people like you used to because we're old guys now.
Yep.
That's the reality. And the whole concept behind the podcast really stems from, man, would it be nice for me to have a pathway to connect with people that I don't know because I'm just like you, man. When we came in and we worked for the last 20 years in this district, you get to know, it's almost like you know everybody. But as you move on, a whole new group of people come through. And this is a really excellent way for our new staff to get to know the people that work in our district that have been around for a while and realize they are approachable people, realize that we're all human beings and we all want to have a connected culture. But more importantly, this is a lens into our district from a stranger's point of view. If they run across Beach Park District 3, they get to hear and see the cool things that are happening here in an authentic way from the people who are actually experiencing it. So I don't think you could have articulated it better or set this piece of the segment up that this is what the podcast is about. It's about connecting with people. And I want people to know Charles Ongena. It's just like you and I, we've had history, but not everybody gets to experience you. And I think the authentic piece of this in your storytelling is what is the greatest part. It's not even the questions that I ask. The questions prompt response, but they're not authentic in a sense of like, look at what you've shared. So throttling back real experience, I think, is just so unauthentic. And this is what people want to hear. And if they don't want to hear it, they fast forward it or they don't listen to the whole thing. But the reality is like, this is really good content. And I think speaking to that, Beach Park District 3, I feel this way. I know you feel this way, really prides itself on the supportive culture. You've clearly conveyed that. But in your own words, what do you think the best part of being in this district has been for you?
I've said it right off the bat when I started here, and it's been true up to this day. I've always coined it as the district of pioneering spirit, and I hope that makes sense. But if you have the desire to take something further or develop something in a new way, be innovative, for lack of a better term, there's a space here for you. Approach your leadership, talk to them, and a space will be provided, support will be provided. You don't always get the absolute no. That has to happen sometimes. I understand that from running departments. Not everything's possible. But if you have that desire, you're going to have support in lifting you up within this district to try some things out. Good people doing good things. That's what it's all about.
Would you say that's your single most outstanding factor that keeps you here and wanting to grow with Beach Park?
Yeah, if I need a lift, whether it's from students or staff, I can always get a lift. We should be able to lean on each other to get lifted up because life is not easy. Friction's good. You can't appreciate the good things. You can't get further in life without friction and strife, but you should always have that support system. And this district is a great support system. You can find support, you can get a boost any which way. And we're lucky to have kids around us because students are just phenomenal. And not every
Truth.
adult gets to have that resource for as much nonsense as we guide them through, there's just as much awesome stuff that it's like, that's phenomenal.
What would you say to a teacher that might be listening today that's struggling in the classroom?
So, embrace the process. It's not all wins. If you fail and you fail and you fail, are you analyzing what's not working and then adjusting? If you're not, then it's crazy, right? You have to be able to pivot. You have to be able to adjust. You have to be able to follow your instincts. If you're not finding joy or enjoyment somewhere amongst the chaos, then, that's when it's okay. There are other venues in life. But if you feel that, if it's really a rough year, we all have rough, bad years. We do.
Yes.
But if you feel that, everyone knows what I'm talking about. You feel that when something does go right, or you get into the flow with a class on a lesson one way or the other. Whoa, what a charge. And that's what you have to focus on.
Absolutely love it, man. Thank you so much. You're one of the I've been waiting for that answer since we started our interview because that's a question I love to get to, and I knew yours would be authentic and so encouraging. So thank you for that. I wanna lighten it up a little bit. I'm gonna get into some of the quick fire stuff. You ready?
Yep.
All right, here we go. So we'll keep it a little bit library oriented, a little media specialist oriented. So what was the first book that you ever remember really loving as a kid?
So I struggled to read, and I remember grabbing the 1980s like tall carpet in my hands, staring at the Sesame Street Grover book, and just I was mad. I wanted to be able to decipher those words so that I could read. And I remember the frustration, and it's tactile because that's the type of person I am. So I could feel that shag carpeting, and staring at that book. So after I did learn to read and I finally got it, of course tore that up, but then I wanted to read adult books. So I had been looking at this old antique book the whole time I was alive up till that point. So that's what I did and I'll never forget it. And I brought it just to show you. It's a
Oh
book
my
from
God.
1899, and that is the first book that I read from cover to back, as soon as I could learn to read. I didn't understand most of what I was reading either, but I got in there and I wanted to be able to be part of that process. So I've read this book over and over throughout my life, and of course it takes on new meaning and you have new understandings. But old books, vintage books, this is one of my keys to life too. Closest thing to time travel anyone is capable of, and you can go through a wormhole in time. Last person to read this book could have been 100 years ago. The best part about vintage books are the little cliff notes that people put in there, little doodles, people's names and addresses, comments. It's like you're receiving a message that was sent through time and space. So there's so much magic to be had in the library.
So for those who can't see the book, what was the title?
This is called Billy Baxter's Letters, and
Yeah.
it has totally not kid appropriate either. But it was just it was the first book that I was like, I've been looking at this book on the shelf that was an antique, and I want to be able, now that I know how, I want to be able to read it, and I did. And it's just a cool posthumous collection of this author's like short narratives that he sent to a newspaper, for articles. And it talks about, young men courting young ladies, and like adventures and fun stuff like that. So I just adore this book because it's literally, this is what I went to after the Grover book. This is what I went to.
I'm in love with it. And let's see, you like physical books, e-readers, or audiobooks?
I'm a total hybrid. So, I've got multiple stories in book form in different rooms. I love driving and listen to audiobooks. I'm going to give a plug for one of my favorite authors, though, Matt Haig. And it's one of those authors that if you read one, you can't not read the rest of them. So it is approachable sci-fi is how I like to put it. So it's if you're not a sci-fi person, it doesn't matter. These are amazing stories that explore imagination and otherworldly concepts, all wrapped up into something that just feels so good. I don't know how else to put it, but Matt
Love it.
Haig. I started
All
with
right.
Mid Library, good one to start with, and then you can move on from there.
If you weren't a media specialist, guru, librarian, what's the other career you would have pursued?
Yo, it's got to be in the forest, sir. Back in the forest preserve I go. And I think it was key being at a nature center because I got to do everything. I like interacting with people. So that's one of the reasons where it's a little few and far between for my liking as a super young person. But now that I can really appreciate moments of silence and like a little less chaos, retirement, I wouldn't mind heading back there. That's for sure.
I feel like you're the one of two human beings in my life that could survive the wilderness if it happened right now.
I like to pretend that I can at least, right? I like to be
Yeah.
prepared, not scared, and I love learning from nature, and it's from its harshness to its utter glory. So it's spans the areas of life.
If you could have a library of any one thing other than books, what would you collect in it?
That's an impossible answer for me. I am a
Okay.
collector of everything, literally everything. And if you interview Lisa, you're gonna watch her face turn to like a little bit of frustration if you talk about my collections because it just doesn't end. And I've had to really deal with kind of the hoarding concepts, and I've learned to like limit to spaces. And once that space is full, if I bring something in, I need to also bring something out. And I've learned to take pictures of things so that I can get rid of it and still have access to it. So that's a tough one for me. I can't give you a good answer of that. It could be literally anything. Yeah.
Dude, that was a great answer. That's a better answer than I was looking for. That was an honest answer. All right. So, best concert you've ever been?
In college, Lisa and I and some friends went to Typo Negative in a very small venue across the Mississippi in Iowa. Just one of those random little farm towns with this. If you don't know Typo Negative, it's just kind of the pioneer of kind of the goth rock genre, sort of. Just beautiful ballads mixed with harder stuff. They're their own thing. And so nothing could ever top that because the lead singer has since passed away long ago. So just being so close to a stage, it's not common with a band you really like. It's hard to have that experience, with money these days. So that's just a great memory, period of time, the proximity where you could feel the music. You can't forget something like that.
Yeah. What's your energy boost for the day?
I think
What do
it's
you
the
go to?
drive. I love to look. I'm lucky enough to drive on Wadsworth for a long way and then Hunt Club, and there's always something natural going on that gets me boosted. It might be the sun rising in the morning, or a deer running across the road in the evening, or turkeys even, like it just scenery. I don't know. It's something about it that just that's my moment of zen where I can recharge.
Love it. Dude, like, this couldn't have been a better time with you. Listen, Charlie, thank you for joining us and for reminding us just that the library is so much more than just a quiet place to sit. It's the engine room of our schools. Your passion for keeping Beach Park District 3 at the cutting edge while staying rooted in literacy is exactly what makes our district special and is obviously going to continue to do that. Anybody, if you see Charlie in the building, make sure you ask him about his latest tools, access him. He is a wealth of knowledge, like an unbelievable wealth of knowledge, and he has been around, legit. I'll get his email in here. You're going to see his name. We'll get a link to his website. Make sure you check the notes. If you're an innovative teacher, an educator, or a media specialist looking for a district that invests in modern learning spaces, come and join us in Beach Park District 3. Exact same website, www.bpd3.org. Check out our employment page. To our teachers right now in Beach Park District 3, we see you, we value you. We are here to provide you with the resources that you need to thrive. Thank you for all that you do for our students, our staff, and our families in our community. I can assure you that the work that you do doesn't go unnoticed, from the district office to the administrators to the teacher across the hall from you. Thank you so much for being you, for being here, for being in our family. And please, if you need anything, reach out to just about anyone. I'm always here for you. That is why I am in the position I am in today, and I can assure you that Charlie would say exactly the same thing.
And I exercise this quite frequently. I'll walk by. Gabe is always willing to pause and talk if he's able to. Everyone is. So it's more accessible and friendly than you could possibly imagine. Give it a try sometime. They love to say hi.
For sure. You guys, thank you so much to everyone in the audience that's listening to Beyond the Bell. Thank you for continuing to listen. Look forward to the next show. I want to invite any of you to please like and subscribe the podcast. It's on all your major channels, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and you're going to see a bunch of hooks from every show that we have every week on any social media platform, be it TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. We're on all of them. I'm getting it out there, and please leave feedback. Hit the like button, because I look at that. Hit the comments and share your suggestions. You know what? Call some people out, and I'll reach out to them to see if I can get them on the show. If you think that it's not worth being on the show because people don't want to get to know you, I can assure you we want to get to know you. You are just as valued as anybody else that's been on the show, and for the people who are going to be on the show, and one of those people could definitely be you. Charlie, Mr. Charles Ongena, anything for the good of the order.
I think I've said more than my allotted piece. So on that note, peace out.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much.